Hello, this is Megan.
Hey, Megan, this is Steve Lynch returning your call. How are
Hi,
you?
Congressman Lynch. Thank you so much for calling.
That's okay.
Can
Happy
you?
to speak with you.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
all right. So, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions and inquiries about what's going on at the Steward level.
Right.
I was just wondering, what does this initially mean for the state?
Well, there are nine. So let me just back up a little bit. So last week, I guess a little bit more than a week, we got notice from Steward Healthcare in a staff meeting that they intended to exit the Massachusetts healthcare market. Now they have 9 hospitals right now, 10 if you include New England Sinai. They had told us that they were closing that previously. That was not a surprise. We had advance notice of that. But this other group of 9 hospitals, we had no significant notice that they were departing, and so it has really put us in a very difficult situation.
Now, what can the state do? Do you guys have any jurisdiction over them, or can you guys step in any way?
Well, the state issues the license, right, for these hospitals to operate. They are regulated by the state, and there's many of the licenses that are being used within these. The state controls the licensing process for the docs and nurses as well. So that's an important leverage that the state has. And then there are certain steps that the state may be able to exercise in a medical emergency or a health crisis. So there are some implications for that. But right now, they've indicated that they intend to transfer ownership or cease operations at 9 of the hospitals, that represent, probably close to 1,500 beds across the state. I think there are 1,000 in my district, my congressional district, and so that's really a very difficult challenge, given the fact that the other hospitals, the non-Steward hospitals, such as Mass General and Mass General Brigham and South Shore Hospital and Tufts, they are already operating at like 94% or 93% occupancy. So basically, the only vacancies they have are when people leave. There's a temporary empty bed while they fill it. So it just allows them to have a flow of patients. But right now they've been 100% occupied. As a matter of fact, Mass General Brigham a couple of weeks ago had their highest number of boarding in the history of the hospital. So, and that's over 200 years. Now, what boarding means is that they have a patient who has come to the hospital for health care and needs to be admitted, but there is no bed available. And so they hold that patient temporarily, either in an emergency room or sometimes in a corridor, waiting to get a room, available for that patient. So that's a really difficult situation right now, and it's not getting any better with the uptick in COVID cases and uptick in flu cases that, in some cases among the elderly, has required hospitalization.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think that if, Steward is going to close, where are these people going to go?
Right.
Just like on a local level, obviously we're Norwood.
Right.
Norwood is in the middle of building a new hospital. Steward is. How does that affect the sale? Like, I'm not sure if you can touch upon that, but, do you envision someone coming in mid-construction to continue this construction and build a hospital?
That would be very difficult. even to get someone to come in and take over a what they call a going concern. In other words, a hospital that is operating is extremely difficult. It is that much more difficult when you have a hospital such as Norwood, where you have major construction going on, and so it greatly complicates things. You have a construction site basically, and so you've got construction loans that are very the insurance on a hospital site where you have ongoing construction in progress is very, very expensive. There are also vendors and contractors that have agreements with Steward to build that to rebuild or create a state-of-the-art hospital as we were promised, just months ago. So it greatly complicates the situation at Norwood Hospital in terms of finding a new entity to come in and take over operations.
Now, and you might not be able to answer this, but is like Norwood Hospital, is that only zoned for a hospital, or could Steward sell that land to anyone?
It all depends on the individual needs. For instance, in Quincy, the zoning that was in place. So Steward ended up selling or closing down Quincy Hospital. This was a few years ago, and I think they had intended on redeveloping it as a large residential. It's on the top of a hill. It's a beautiful location, and so Steward intended to convert that to a residential development, non-hospital. However, the city zoning said that site was reserved only for a hospital, and so Steward's plans were thwarted, and I think they came to some other type of agreement. So in the Norwood situation, I would have to look at the Norwood zoning code and look at a plot plan for whether or not that could be repurposed in some other way.
Now, is Steward...
That remains an open question.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of questions, a lot of people talking, a lot of concerns. But also, is Steward looking to sell these as a package, or just example, if Mass General was like, hey, we'll buy Neshoba, and Beth Israel was like, we'll buy, St. E's. Is that something they're open to, or are you hearing anything on that along those lines?
We haven't had sufficient information from Steward at this point. We've asked, we've had an outstanding letter, the two senators, Senator Markey and Warren, myself, and the rest of the Massachusetts congressional delegation have asked for a meeting with them to get a briefing on, answering all those questions, like what are their goals here, what are the possibilities here, and how can we help keep these hospitals open. Unfortunately, they did not contact us in advance. We learned about this sort of in an ad hoc fashion. We learned about it through the press. We learned about it when they were already $50 million behind in their rent to MPT, which is the company it's a real estate trust that owns the properties and the buildings that Steward operates in. So, we're lacking important information. I have plans to sit with the individual hospital administrators, and I just got off a meeting with some of the nurses and healthcare workers from Norwood Hospital, the union leaders, and we've got some meetings scheduled with Brockton, as well as some of the other locations where Steward's departure is causing disruptions in healthcare.
Now, is the only way to save these closings if someone steps up and buys them?
Well, that is what uh, that's what they've suggested. So Steward, in their briefing, I want to say it's probably about 10 days ago, in their briefing said, we want to transfer ownership, and we want to provide an opportunity for someone else to come in and take over these hospitals. So they've expressed that intent. However, they did it after they ran up $50 million in back rent. So someone coming in now would probably have to, and also we've had doctors from Mass General Brigham pull out of some of these hospitals because equipment was no longer available. So I think what happened is some of the vendors that were owed money for providing equipment and materials to the hospitals were not paid, and so they pulled their equipment out, which prevented the doctors. It put them in a position of liability by trying to conduct or perform medical procedures without adequate equipment. So their conduct thus far has made it more difficult to keep these operations open, and that's even for the hospitals that are not under construction, such as Norwood. So there's also a claim in for about $40 million by one of the medical personnel companies that provide staff. It's a staffing company. So they've been providing healthcare workers and nurses on a per diem basis to Steward Healthcare, and they have not been paid. So they're owed $40 million plus. There's a claim there by them. So there's a lot of debt here that if a new company came in, they might have to assume that debt and pay it off before they could get free and clear to operate.
Yeah, so that's another hurdle. Just everyone talks about, Mass General Brigham. Are they an option or?
Well, Mass General Brigham just experienced their most critical day of care in the way of boarding patients. So just to give you a little bit of, so all these hospitals operate at about 93% occupancy, just to make things work. The only vacancies they have is when somebody leaves the hospital and somebody comes in. So there's a very narrow margin that they have there. What has happened is because of COVID and because of the flu, they've had an uptick in people coming in seeking medical care. And so I know 2 weeks ago, Mass General Brigham announced that they had their highest number of boarding patients. So boarding patients, again, are patients who come to the hospital, they need medical care, they need to be admitted, and yet there's no bed available. So what Mass General Brigham has done, it's customary practice at all these hospitals, is they'll temporarily hold people either in an emergency room or in a holding area in a corridor or something like that until a bed is available. But in this case, and I think it's partly because of the COVID and the flu, and also diverting patients from other hospitals, that they're overcrowded right now, and so under those circumstances, could Brigham and Women's, Mass General Brigham come in and rescue one of these other hospitals? I don't think so. But we're having that discussion. I know there's been discussions with the Mass Hospital Association to see if there's some way that, at least on a temporary basis, we might be able to transfer patients from one hospital to the other if that becomes necessary.
Yeah, no, we appreciate, everything the state level has been doing, and you guys are communicating amazing. Is there anything like you would like to tell, the Nord community, what you're working on with the situation and trying to resolve it?
Sure. I've been working, I've been communicating with Senator Rush and Representative John Rogers. we're trying to, right at this point, we're just trying to get information so we can deal with this. We know, look, it's the hospital's in Norwood, but it also serves, in my community, it serves Canton, it serves Dedham, it serves Westwood, it serves Walpole. That is a regional hospital that's very, very important to us. So, in the short term, we were hoping to just, muddle through and fix this by, building a state-of-the-art hospital on the Norwood Hospital site. And we were promised that by Steward, but now they've, in their meeting, they described the transfer of ownership of Norwood Hospital as urgent. There were 4 hospitals, Holy Family, Neshoba Valley, I think it's called, St. Elizabeth's Medical Center, and Norwood Hospital. They classified those as urgent, so they were trying to transfer ownership to those in a very short time frame. They did not tell us what that meant, urgent, like they did not give me a date, but they said those were the first on the list that they were seeking to transfer.
Yeah, it's kind of it's shocking. It's scary. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. And
At some point, I want to do sort of a town hall. Once I get all the information,
Awesome.
Myself, John Rogers, and Senator Rush, we will get up to speed.
Okay.
And then we'll do a town hall in Norwood to try to describe, and we'll invite the Norwood hospital staff there and administration to sort of try to explain to people so they understand what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Please keep us posted on that and any information that we can get out to the community to help. Please use us because we do serve the community, and we're all in it together. So we would be more than happy.
I believe me, we're on the same team here. You're on the side of the angels. Part of this is to try to reassure people and let them know. I mean, think about it. If you have a family member, an older parent or a child that needs acute medical care, and you've got a relationship with Norwood Hospital or any of these hospitals that's impacted, that's a very, very scary situation. So I right now we're trying to get information to keep the community informed.
Absolutely,
that's job one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is scary, you think if they do close these hospitals, and we're doing some research earlier, is they have 10 facilities here and they urgently want to, unload 4 of them. It's how many patients is that? And then you keep going to the other 6. That's a lot of territory they cover.
So just in my district, and I'm counting Quincy Hospital, which already closed.
Yeah.
And in Stoughton, I have New England Sinai, which was already slated to close.
Now let me ask you about that. So I saw that today, and the article that I read was December 5th. Was that a red flag? Were you guys concerned? Were you did you think anything of it?
Well, anytime we lose bed availability, that's a concern. But in the case of Quincy, there was enough capacity between South Shore Hospital and the Boston hospitals. Kearney is not that far away. Milton Hospital is not that far away. So there was, at least the Massachusetts Hospital Association said that there was the ability to absorb that capacity in other nearby hospitals. So with New England Sinai in Stoughton, it's a rehab. It's a long-term rehab hospital, and so some of those patients would be eligible to be residents at nursing homes or other long-term care facilities. So there was plenty of capacity out there. But when you say we're going to close or we're going to cease operations at 9 hospitals all at the same time, that's a whole different scenario. first of all, we got no notice. As I said before, we got zero notice on this. We basically got a couple of hours of notice that that Norwood, St. E's, Neshoba, and Holy Family were on the urgent list for transfer or a sale, and so there was no indication that this type of thing was going to happen.
Yeah, and not even the patients, the jobs and the economy, and like where to go.
There are literally thousands
Yeah.
of employees. I just got off with the Mass Nurses Association, which represents, and I've had long dealings with them. I know them all, by name. I've been to the union a number of times. So at some point, I've got to do a sit down or a town meeting with them to explain from the employee side what is in store. So
Of course.
we're trying to figure that out as well.
Yeah, and I know,
a lot on our plate.
Yeah, here at NCM, we appreciate all the hard work, and I know the Nord community, appreciates the hard work as well. So, I thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking. So I've got a bunch of meetings scheduled right now. So
Okay.
I've got another meeting with some of the employees. I've got a meeting, that's scheduled with Senator Rush and John Rogers. I've got a bunch of stuff scheduled with. I've got a larger meeting scheduled with Steward, and we sent them a letter for the whole delegation. But I think they're a little nervous about that, so they've agreed to do a personal briefing for me.
Okay.
So after I do all these, I'll have more information.
If
more facts.
Yeah, if Molly, I can touch base with Molly, and if there's something worth updating, and you have time, and you're not too crazy. I know you have a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
We would love to have you, and we'd love to update the community. But like I said, please use us as a resource if you need
absolutely.
to.
No, you're a valuable resource, especially in cases like this where there is such a local impact. It's really, really important. So when I finish up on these meetings, I'll have Molly reach out to you.
Okay. Awesome. That sounds.
You can call her as well. But,
okay.
Just so you know, I'll make sure that she contacts you so that you're in the loop on this.
Awesome. I appreciate it so much, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Okay. No worries. Thank you.
Good luck with everything. Thank you.
Well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.